This time on the Families Matter Most podcast.
I think to be able to parent with emotion instead of parent emotionally gives us the latitude to choose how we want to respond. And so when we're emotionally regulated, how much more of an opportunity and chance do our kids have a chance to emotionally regulate themselves? And so we're modeling what that looks like for our kids.
Every time Jen Dean speaks, I can see hope, knowledge, expertise, wisdom, and love.
When Jen Dean speaks about parenting, we make sure that we are there to listen because we know we will get valuable advice.
Families Matter Most with Jen Dean.
She doesn't just give skills for us to be better parents, but she teaches us how to reach our children's hearts. And at the end of the day, that's what truly matters.
Welcome to the Families Matter Most podcast. I have a very special guest with me today. Thank you for being here, Gary Chupik.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Now, Gary is internationally recognized as one of the world's top mental performance coaches. Now, tell me, how would you define that when people are like, hey, what's a mental performance coach, Gary?
It's someone who is specifically targeting the mental and emotional side of performing at high levels in high pressure environments. So, and that could be anything. It could be anything from sports and business to parenting.
That's a bit of pressure. That's some high pressure some days.
Yeah, it is. I mean, to emotionally regulate yourself as a parent, I mean, that's difficult to do. And so there's so much of life is emotional. Like so much of life. And it's not just a little bit of life, it's a lot of life. And so to be able to, use mental performance skills and tactics to regulate yourself emotionally so that you can live up to your own hopes and expectations as a parent and the way that you want to, like if you give yourself lots of choices in how you respond to your kids, that can only help you.
Now, the Families Matter Most community, I'm so grateful. We want to do the very best that we can. We have a high level of excellence. We want to show up for the people we do life with. We want to be successful at home. We want to reach the hearts of our kids, not just be making them do stuff. We don't focus on behavior modification. We actually focus on character development with our kids. We want to be successful at work, in our careers. We want to be the boss, but we want to do it well. And I think you recognize there is a right and a wrong way to go about it. So you have coached top level, like some of the sports teams you've coached are NFL teams, also business. You've coached people from the FBI, people from Amazon. So I'm not kidding when I say the top coach in the world for mental performance. What are some of the things that you just see over and over and over? And I'm curious, my second question is, are they the same in business and in sports? Are they just kind of universal?
It's so interesting that when I talk to businesses, I'll just say, what does it take? Or what do you think it takes to be a really great elite athlete? And so they'll talk about things like discipline and emotional regulation and, hard work. And I mean, they'll just drop, confidence, self-belief. They'll drop all these things. And then I'll say something like in business, I'll say, so what does it take to be great at your business? They'll start dropping all the same stuff, all the same words. It's going to take discipline. It's going to take effort. It's going to take skill. It's going to take emotional regulation. It's going to take confidence. So I would say 80% of what it takes to be an elite athlete is what it takes to be really great in business. And if you want to translate that over to, let's say, being a parent, I would suspect that over 50% of those words are still applicable, or maybe even 70% are applicable to what it takes to be a great parent. And so as we talk about like parenting, and as you just mentioned, I believe that the days of just being excellent at one thing are over. Like, for example, like if you're Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant or some famous athlete and you excel at one thing, but the rest of your life is a dumpster fire, is that really success? Right. And so I teach something in my business called whole life excellence. I just want to be excellent at everything. Like, why can't I be? Like, who says that I can't be excellent at everything? So I want to be an excellent, husband. I want to be an excellent parent. I want to be excellent in my finances. I want to be excellent in my education. I want to be excellent at my vocation. I mean, just everything. I want to be a great friend. I want to be an exceptional friend. So this whole life excellence idea, I think, is really important. And if you're going to do that, then you just have to live your life on a different plane. You have to have your heads above the clouds almost all of the time. And so how can I think for performance? And it's interesting, like, especially as believers in Christ, we always talk about we're human beings, not human doings. And yet that I think has gotten a little out of balance for Christians, because we're called to produce good fruit and plenty of fruit. How do I live my life in such a way as I produce much and good fruit? I think is a conversation that we've lost in Christianity.
And it's not just good fruit over here, but terrible fruit over here.
Right.
You believe it's possible. It's possible to maybe not perfect, but excellent. We can be excellent at home. We can be excellent at work. What does it take to live that different plane lifestyle?
Yeah, I just think it takes a different kind of mind, because instead of, especially as parents, we're always reacting to things.
Yeah.
And to be able to choose your response in almost every situation, that is a skill that needs to be learned. And so we don't pay much attention to the mind, and we don't pay much attention to, like, oh, I've got a lot of options here, like how I want to respond. And what's the criteria or the metric for which are the best ways to respond? Is it, I just need to get something off my chest, or I just need to vent, or do I have my child's best interest at heart?
Being able to stay in control of ourselves. A lot of what I do in my family coaching is kind of two sides. One is the skills. Do we know what to do? And then can we stay calm to do it? Those are like the two pieces. When you're working with a sports team, let's say you're going in to an NFL team and you're going to work with these athletes, what are the first big pieces that you're going to need to work on?
Well, there's two things. Number one is I know I'm going to have to work on belief, which it sounds really kind of odd. We would talk
These kids have already made it to this level.
Exactly.
They don't believe they belong. Is it imposter syndrome?
Oftentimes it is. Yeah, because there's such a pecking order in sports. Like, you have to be good to even get there. But then are you first string, second string, third string, fourth string, practice roster? So there's this perpetual comparison that athletes have with the other. I mean, I literally went to an NFL stadium. I watched a game in Buffalo. So it was the Buffalo Bills against the Miami Dolphins. And I was a guest of a professional NFL agent. And so he's watching the game, and he's not even paying attention to the score. He's not paying attention to the team. The only thing he's paying attention to is his player. And so even though, let's say, his team gets scored upon, but his player makes a good play, he's cheering. But even if the Bills score a touchdown, but his player made a bad play or didn't do what he was supposed to do, he's not cheering with the rest of the crowd. His eyes are fixed on that. So this idea of belief is so important. In my work with the Seattle Mariners, the very first thing they teach players when they come up from the minors to the major leagues, the very first thing they teach is belief. Do you believe that if you put in the work, and do you believe that if you do what we tell you to do, that you can be successful? And because if you don't believe that, to overflowing, you're never going to achieve everything that you can achieve. And even as a athlete, or as a parent, or as someone in business, if you have hesitation, listen, what it takes to be successful at the highest levels is like, literally, you have to get rid of hesitation. And we are in that place where we say, well, wait a minute, don't you want, I don't want to react. Well, yeah, but you can be in a frame of mind where you are choosing not to hesitate, because in sports, when you hesitate, you lose. Most sports are a game of inches or centimeters or millimeters or half a second. Hesitation is loss in sports. And in business, the best businessmen and women make quick decisions, and they say, you know what, this is just, here's the information I have, here's the decision that we're going to make, and we can course correct along the way. And I think as parents or as leaders in whatever it is that we're leading, to remove hesitation, you have to have a high degree of confidence and belief in yourself that,
Yeah.
I need to have a track record of some successes behind me so that I can trust myself and believe in myself that if I put my mind to something and if I do what I need to do and I can
Yes.
remove that hesitation, that I can be successful.
Agree or disagree, Gary? What I think, everyone listening, what Gary is not saying is just trust your gut and just go with whatever feels right. I think there is a strategy to this to be able to confidently not hesitate, not second guess, not overthink. You need to have some strategies in place to be able to do that. And I think you need to have a strong degree of teachability, maybe some humbleness to be able to learn and to get better over time. What do you think?
Well, it's about giving ourselves tools. So imagine you're doing a remodeling project and you forgot to bring your hammer, and that day you're framing. So you don't have the right, you don't have the right tool. You might have some skill, but if you don't have the right tools, then you feel stuck. And I think, at least in my parenting journey, how many times did I just not have the right tool and I felt so stuck?
Oh, yeah.
I almost knew what I needed to do, but because I didn't have the tools, I couldn't actually do the job or finish the
Yes.
job. And knowing what kind of a hammer you are, there's finishing hammers, there's framing hammers, there's sludge hammers, there's all these different kinds of hammers. And so knowing who you are and investing in yourself is so crucial. And so I think no, like having skill is crucial and it's important. Having tools is just as important. And that's why people get stuck, is because they don't have the right tools. And part of what I do is I just put tools in people's tool bags. People will say to me, Gary, you must have a mindset of steel. You must be so amazing. And you never have any mental. Listen, I'm human, right? I got emotions. I got thoughts. I have inhibitions. I have weaknesses. I have insecurities. But the more tools that we can give ourselves, the more we can finish the job. We can work on things and move past. Instead, if we don't have those tools, then we get stuck on the job with the tool belt around us, and we sit
Right.
down and think, well, how long is this lunch hour going to be? Because I don't have the right tools to do the job until someone brings them to me. And so the idea of you and I bringing tools to people is probably one of the most important things now. Yeah, I mean, obviously you have to have the skill to be able to use those tools, but you have to build a track record so that you can begin to believe in yourself. And it's the same way with parenting. If we are not spending time thinking about how we respond to things instead of just reacting. Now, if we're constantly just reacting, we're not responding, then we're not building ourselves a track record so that we can trust us. If we
Yes.
can't trust us, how should anybody trust us?
Right.
Right? We have got to trust ourselves. And the only way to do that is to prove things to yourself.
What I feel like has helped me through doing that work, just like you're talking about, working on ourselves, being able to be humble, to learn, to go back and say, okay, that maybe wasn't my best decision. What I learn is that for me, if I just react emotionally, then that's not the right kind. It's hit or miss, right? Depending on my emotion of the day. But I think, yeah, what Gary is speaking to, that developing the skill and then the belief and the track record, is learning yourself, learning how you work, learning how best to be successful in this, whatever the situation is, whether you're at work, you're in sports, you're in business, you're parenting your kids, making sure that you can choose your response, not based on how I'm feeling in that moment, but then really learning what the situation needs. Now, I have a question for all of the parents that have kids in sports. A lot of parents have kids in hockey. They're in hockey 6 days a week. They're in dance. They're in high level football, hockey, whatever that is. How can we develop that belief even in our younger kids? Can we start now?
Yeah, that's super interesting. Well, here's an example, and this kind of goes back to your previous point about, let's say, having to emotionally regulate yourself. Like,
Yes.
for example, I had a football coach who called me at 11 p.m. after a game, and he said, Gary, what am I doing wrong? My team is getting all types of penalties. They're overreacting. They're making really poor judgments. And I said, well, coach, they're just following you.
Oh,
And he
ouch.
was like, well, what do you mean? And I said, you're coaching emotionally. You're not coaching with emotion.
Ooh,
And your team is playing emotionally. They're not playing with emotion. And one of them is a reaction. Another one is a tool. And so you
yeah.
can use your emotion as a tool and you can choose to respond that way. And so when it comes to, let's say, parents of, teens or younger kids who are playing all types of sports, like, listen, I don't know about you, but I've coached my sons and my kids in sports, and it is so hard to emotionally regulate myself, right? Like, I am all over the place. I'm yelling at my kids, I'm screaming, I'm all
Yeah.
this stuff. But I think to be able to parent with emotion instead of parent emotionally gives us the latitude to choose how we want to respond. And so when we're emotionally regulated, and then how much more of a opportunity and chance do our kids have a chance to emotionally regulate themselves? And so we're modeling what that looks like for our kids.
So good news, bad news here. The good news is, Gary, we don't really have to do a step 1, step 2, step 3 with our kids in order to help them to play with emotion, not be emotional, whether that's in sports or just in life in general.
Yeah.
That's the good news. The bad news is it means you have to work on yourself in order to model it. And I've seen it, I've done it, I've tried. Years ago, I had 3 young kids at home, and I was, I'm going to be positive and I'm not going to yell and I'm just going to be happy all the time. And eventually you crack, right? Like you're faking it. You're trying to be something as opposed to doing that work and letting it flow and modeling it to your kids. The bad news, folks, is we got to do the work on ourselves.
Yeah, I love what Warren Buffett said. He said, for every dollar that I spend on self-investment, like investing in myself, I reap about 4 times as much in ROI, like in the return on investment.
Yes.
And I think as parents, we're so busy. We're so busy investing in our kids, and we're driving them to each of their practices and their games. And then when we have multiple kids, we are like burning the candle at both ends, and we forget to invest in ourselves. And so that's when we start to play emotionally instead of with emotion, because we rob ourselves of that margin that's necessary in order for us to be able to make those decisions wisely. And so, yeah, investing in yourself is never a bad idea.
Never a bad idea. And I've said it before, I will stand by it. I like a good book. Don't get me wrong. Books are good. Podcasts are good. I love that you're listening to this podcast. I love it. It's great. And it does help to give you some tools, but it does not compare to having a one-on-one coach or a group coach, a real person who's going to look you in your eye and call you on your stuff.
Well, I agree, because when you have a coach, they know you, they know your tendencies. Like, a good coach will know the tendencies of their players and their opponents.
Yeah.
So they put their finger on tendencies. And so when someone puts their finger on one of my tendencies and it's kind of hurtful, or it kind of, it's kind of like it stings a little bit,
Yeah.
but they're putting their finger on something that I've been avoiding. And maybe that one thing or 2 things that I've been avoiding that I'm not very good at or that I'm weak at, maybe those are the very things that are the obstacles I need to overcome to be as successful as I want to be. So having the humility to say, yeah, I think I need some help. Yeah, I need to. I love what Pete Carroll, coach of the Seattle Seahawks for many years, said. He said, Gary, the best always want a coach. It's the players who don't think that they need one are the ones that really need it, right?
Oh, they really need it.
Yeah, they really need it. And the ones that are the best, they're the ones who want to get coached, because they're looking for every competitive edge that they can get over their opponent. We had Russell Wilson spends over $100,000 a year on coaching, just in his mind. He would talk to his mental performance coach every single day of the year. And so his mental performance coach, Trevor Moawad, was my mentor. And so I got to spend a year with Trevor, just one-on-one, and he would address those issues with me too. And so the best always want to get coached. I think one of the misconceptions about what I do is that, you have to be not doing well in order to, to really feel like you need a coach. When in reality, it's the best players that really want the coach. And so just know that you can be really good at something. And actually, I prefer that someone is really good at something, because they have more emotional and mental resources to take what I'm telling them and even go to the next level, because we've all got next level in us, right? Like, whoever we are, we've got more levels in us. And so the best always want to get a coach. And I think you don't have to be sick to want to get better. And so let's
true.
push each other on and move each other on to get better.
Well, Gary, you offer some coaching programs. You have created your own game plan. What is that like? Now, I love that, there's the sports reference there, but you've done this with moms, you've done this with executives. What does that look like?
Well, it's so fascinating because one of my favorite clients was a mom in Tacoma, Washington. And she was like, my kids are driving me crazy. And she goes, Gary, this sounds so strange, but I think I need mental performance help. And
Oh,
so I've thought to myself, like, how could this work? Is this got a shot at winning it all? And she started to put in, I would just talk about the principles of mental performance, and it changed her life. She
mhm.
parented differently. She literally created, like I teach professional and college football teams about culture. So I have this whole culture workshop I do. She was like, do you think you could teach that to me for my family? And I was like, I've never done that for a family. And so we
Yeah,
did
let's
this
try.
culture workshop for her family, and she put it up on her refrigerator door, and she goes, Gary, everything's different.
Oh,
Everything, we just created a family culture, and it was all sort of sports, oriented, but it didn't
yes.
have to be. She just translated that thing for her family, and it was just fantastic. So I do have what I call the playbook for the mind. So it's the 10 or 12 one-on-one sessions just to teach mental performance, and not what to think, but how to think, and how to get your head above the clouds so that you can respond instead of react. And so that's the
Mm,
playbook for the mind. And I have a game plan for life, which is like, how do I live a high performance life? And so for people who are either are thinking about a transition, or they're coming through a transition, how do I live at an optimal level? And so I
yes.
work with just about every walk of life for that. And so, yeah, those are my two things, the playbook for the mind and the game plan for life. And of course, you can see how they work together too. Like, if you want to
Oh,
live a certain way, you have to think a certain way. And if you think
yep.
a certain way, it helps you live a certain way. And so it's a great combination. And so, yeah, that's primarily what I do.
Well, I can vouch for Gary. I've had Gary as my coach. He's helped me work through some things. And I could say I would not be at the level that I'm at if it wasn't for Gary. So thank you for that.
Yeah, you're very kind. Thank you.
Where can people find you, find information, learn from you?
Well, the number one place I'm at is Instagram, which is Elite Mindset. And so I'm the one with the little blue dot on Instagram, or you can go to
Okay.
my website at elitemindsetnation.com, and people can sign up for a free 15-minute discovery call or strategy call, just to have a little chat to see if we're a good fit, and what opportunities might be available to be able to work together. So it's a low pressure, just the chat. And if people want to talk, I'd be happy to listen.
Wonderful. Well, we're going to have all of that in the show notes for this podcast. So you can search him up on Instagram or just click it. We'll have all the links wherever you get this podcast. So thank you so much, Gary, for being my guest today. I wish you well. I'm excited to see where you're going to go next.
Yeah, it's an honor and a privilege. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Families Matter Most podcast with Jen Dean. Book a free strategy call today. For more podcasts, online courses, or just to get more information, visit familiesmattermost.com.